Well, it's the warmest widespread temperatures we've seen across the bulk of England, Wales, and indeed Ireland since way back at the beginning of July. Thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook for Wednesday, the 9th of August, and the temperature has now topped, according to Meteor Seal anyway, the temperature's now topped 25 Celsius at Shannon Airport in the western side of the Republic of Ireland, and that surpasses any temperature seen back during the month of July 2023, believe it or not. The highest temperature at Malin Head of 24.1 Celsius. So, yeah, it's warmer than any day back in July across parts of Ireland. And indeed, the UK overall is seeing the warmest temperatures since back in early July. You have to go all the way back to the 10th of July for the last time the temperature surpassed on mainland UK. The temperature surpassing 25.8 Celsius. So it shows you how cool the last 4 weeks has been across the board. And we notch up further over the next 24 hours. According to the UK Met Office, temperatures tomorrow reach 27, 28 Celsius. As far north as South Yorkshire, and you can see here really we've got temperatures of 26, 27 Celsius all the way up to Greater Manchester, even as far north as Leeds, across to Humber side, and then of course further south we've got the widespread 27, 28 Celsius, I think, overall. Looks as if we do notch up to about 25, 26 during the course of Friday, but what we have got is a frontal system that is going to be edging in off the Atlantic. So as you can see here, this is off the GFS chart. We've got this, rather deep area of low pressure out over the North Atlantic here. A little bit more of a setup that was seen back in early July that's seen that spike in temperature. The UK maximum for July was, say, 30.2 Celsius at Chertsey. And, we had a similar type of setup, low pressure, deep at that, to the west, edging in off the Atlantic. So it was a short-lived spike in temperature, and we're going to see pretty much the same idea once again this late week and into the weekend, generally speaking. So area of low pressure over the North Atlantic, higher pressure over Europe, and you can see here that the trough digs all the way down to the Azores. So we've got some pretty showery and fresher conditions through the Azores over the course of today and tomorrow. But essentially what that is doing is, as this system moves through the Azores at the base of the trough, we're seeing warmth across Iberia and France, where temperatures have been as high as 46 Celsius in the last 24 hours in parts of Portugal. Not that far off the all-time record actually here, so very, very impressive warmth once again across Iberia. But what essentially is happening is, as that system then it starts to edge closer to the southwest of Ireland, southwestern UK, the warmth gets lifted north, but we've got a frontal system edging in off the Atlantic. So it's a 1-2 day affair. For most, it's only 1 day of real warmth. We could even see 26 in the Murray Coast, by the way, thanks to southerly winds and sunshine to the lee, the north side of the Grampian Mountains. We could see those temperatures reach fairly warm levels in the north of Scotland as well. But of course, as that energy then moves in, we'll see the showers breaking out and fresher conditions moving in behind the frontal system. And then that is a sign of things to come for the upcoming weekend. That area of low pressure eventually kind of trundles its way over Ireland, over the British Isles. We'll see fresher conditions, back to closer to average, and it is a very short-lived 24 for most, 48-hour for southeast England, a fair, and then you can see here that we've got a fairly cool, showery, blustery regime through the weekend, and that area of low pressure goes nowhere anytime fast, so it lingers throughout the course of the weekend. It does start the weekend, so it's filling, therefore we maybe lose a little bit of dynamic energy within the atmosphere associated with this area of low pressure, and but it lingers right the way through the weekend here, keeping the shower activity going. In the sunshine feels pretty pleasant indeed, but underneath shower activity and with light winds, we could see some rather poor conditions once again. So it's another weekend. That must be weekend 4, if not 5, dominated by low pressure an incredible summer overall. Warm and dry June, very disappointing, cool, wet July, and indeed the first 10 days of August has been rather cool, fresh, unsettled as well. It does look, however, that we are starting to see changes taking place. While we may not see anything of heatwave conditions developing over the UK during the middle and second half of August, it does look as if the regime overall starts to settle down a little bit more, a little bit less in the way of rainfall as we progress through the next week to 10 days and beyond, hopefully, but also warmer temperatures, but nothing particularly excessive. If we look at the GFS ensemble here, this is the rainfall anomaly chart for the upcoming 7 days. So you notice here that it's still slightly above average rainfall wise, ever so slightly over Scotland, drier than average for the rest of the UK and Ireland here. As we play through this loop, you can see here that it must be picking up some kind of shower activity over Scotland in particular, average to below average across England, Wales, slightly wet than average, ever so slightly, like I say, across Ireland and Northern Ireland. And then as we play through the loop here, so this is the 13th through the 20th of August, it looks as if we've got a drier than average theme overall. Now, if we look at the temperature anomalies here of the same chart here, so this is the ensemble, and you can see here that the upcoming 5 days has warmer than average across the board, and something we just simply haven't seen since way back in the early portion of July, if not even June. The 6 to 10 day, you can see here, marginally above average temperatures here, and the 11 to 15 day, slightly warmer than average. So it looks as if the general flavour of the weather is changing. We lose a little bit of the instability, the very unsettled conditions that we're seeing. Higher pressure means less rain, slightly warmer temperatures. But again, like I say, nothing quite to write home about overall. If we look at the GFS ensemble here, this is the 850 temperature chart, and you can see here that we go from slightly below average to above average for London. 850 is at 15 Celsius roughly over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. Then we go back slightly below average according to the means anyway. Stays that way through, the 12th to about the 16th of August. Then we start to see a warming trend. That white line is the mean, the running mean of the ensemble. And you can see here the general emphasis being towards the period between the 16th onwards. We're warming the column up at 850 or 5,000 feet above London, according to this GFS ensemble. And some of these outliers are indicating temperatures above 20 Celsius at 850. But remember what I've already said, that very wet ground leads to more evaporation of the sun, so I wouldn't necessarily buy into anything too extreme temperature-wise, but it looks as if the general trend is that we're going slightly above average through the second half of August. That is the kind of take-home to today's video. Inverness, 850s, firmly below average at the moment, goes firmly above average for a period of time through to about the 15th, then it goes back to average, and then we kind of trend slightly above average, if not actually a reasonably bit above average over Inverness through the second half of August here. So quite interesting stuff. Want to look a little bit at tweets that I've put out through the course of this afternoon, either tweets or retweets. And like I said, temperatures were very, very impressive across parts of Portugal over the last 24 hours. 46.4 Celsius was recorded yesterday, I believe, in Portugal, sorry. So very, very impressive heat indeed. Of course, we've had the extremes over the last couple of days with very, very cool temperatures over the central Mediterranean and over the central portion of Europe. Record heat in southwest, record warmth across the far north of Scandinavia in recent days. Temperatures are going to start to balance itself out, I think, as we press forward. A couple of interesting things, by the way, with regards to the extreme heat over the North Atlantic. We'll look at the temperature anomaly chart in a second, because there's some very interesting little things happening at the moment over the western mid of the southwest UK. Just hold on for a second, because we'll talk about that in a second. But may try and talk. There's going to be a global weather and climate report this upcoming Sunday as usual, but it's going to be a little bit different. So again, if you haven't already done so, be sure to check out the channel and indeed subscribe to the channel as well. Edging ever so close to 5,000 subs, so I greatly appreciate your support, of course. But I am going to be in Northern Ireland this upcoming weekend, and I may try and do something a little bit different. So stay tuned. There'll be more on that in the coming days to come. But a little bit of speculation with regards to the extreme North Atlantic warmth, possible reduced aerosols, El Nino, Tonga Hunga, volcanic eruption, reduced wind as well. Here's a more direct explanation. This is off World Climate Service, by the way. Persistently low wind speeds reduced cooling by evaporation. The April through July period saw the lowest basin average winds since 1995. So, a possible contributing factor to the incredible warmth over the North Atlantic may be, along with so many other different aspects, possible a reduction in wind speed over the ocean surface. And I'll show you why wind is a big player in just a second here. So yeah, very interesting stuff indeed. Also, our friend Shrine, of course, was mentioning how, well, from the NOAA data, there have only been 4 Julys since 1950 with an NAO index as negative or more negative than what we've seen back in July of 2023. It was a very negative NAO pattern. Be interesting to see if we see any kind of reflection of this same type pattern as we push towards the winter season. That is going to be very interesting indeed here. And a lot of interesting stuff with regards to the stratosphere, the incredible blocking that we're seeing over the North Atlantic, over the Arctic region in recent times within the stratosphere. Lots of weird and wonderful things going on at the moment with regards to the weather. And I'd certainly do endeavour to try and show you a lot of that here on the channel. So yeah, trying to show you something that you're not seeing elsewhere. Put this tweet out: today is the most widespread warmth of August so far for England and Wales. In particular, last time anywhere in the UK exceeded 25.8 was all the way back to the 10th of July, nearly a month ago, and we shall limp into the upper 20s before, briefly for tomorrow, possibly clinging on Friday in the southeast before the return to a more typical Atlantic freshness. And of course, Ireland has seen, it looks like, the warmest temperature since June. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a tweet I put out this afternoon. Big drop in sea surface temperatures off the southwest UK. We're actually below average in terms of sea surface temperature anomaly to the southwest of the UK. Why would that be the case? Strong northeasterly or northwesterly winds, should I say, thanks to Storm Anthony during the course of the weekend, saw the temperatures drop. Now, also, we've seen a very big drop in sea surface temperatures off the French Riviera, as much as 10 Celsius, by the way. So if you look at this chart off Meteoseal, not very clear to see, I apologise about that. 15 Celsius along parts of the South Devon and Cornish coast, so below average here, also below average in other parts. But this region here to the south of France saw a temperature drop from 24.5 Celsius on some of those beaches along the Riviera to 13.2 Celsius. So mistral winds blowing off France, forcing the upwelling of colder waters from deep below the surface. So below average, firmly below average across the Western Mediterranean basin. So this is the current temperature anomaly over the Western Med. And you can see this dramatic cooling off France, off the western side of Italy, surrounding Sardinia here, versus a warmer than average Balearics, Central and Eastern Mediterranean basin. This is the 7-day change. So, of course, there's those below average waters off the UK and Ireland. And there's that 7-day change in sea surface temperature anomaly. Dramatic stuff. And it's all thanks to those winds coming in from the north and the northwest, causing the upwelling of water. Remember that claim of 101 Fahrenheit water in a lagoon off South Florida? Temperature dropped from 101 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, thanks to winds kicked up by a thunderstorm. So it shows you wind and weather does have an impact on sea surface temperature anomalies here, both in the short term, possibly even in the long term as well. So I think I've spoken